Okay, so today I want to answer a few social media questions that are going to cover the basics about social media. And if you have any questions during this module, I encourage you to ask them in the questions form, and we can cover them in the live Q&A call this week. So the first question is, do I need to be on social media, and what's the purpose? So yes, I would say that you at the very least need to lock down a social media handle or name. So if you're a brick and mortar store, maybe you're on the floor in your store, engaged with your customers, and you don't have time for social media. That's totally fine. Just make sure you reserve your social media handle or social media name. The purpose of social media is to engage with your audience. You want to listen and learn from your customer and from your audience, and social media is a great way to do that. It's your job as a brand or as a business to be a student of your audience and your customers, and that's one of the primary reasons I would recommend someone actually start using social media past the point of just reserving your name and just really engaging on it. Believe it or not, social media is not a popularity contest. It is not something that says you've arrived or you've succeeded in the business world. Yes, the number of followers a brand or business has on social media can provide some credibility to that business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that business is making money, and that doesn't even necessarily mean that that audience is engaging with that business. After all, people can buy followers on social media, which is a practice I would never encourage anyone to do, for the record. What really matters about social media is how you are connecting and engaging with your audience. That's the whole purpose behind it. So another question I get quite frequently is, which social media channels do I need to be on? And my answer to that question is always, well, which social media channels are your customers or is your audience on? Who are you trying to target? So on YouTube, there are all kinds of people, but who's really watching YouTube? On Instagram, it's a huge win for us as creative entrepreneurs. But is the niche of customers you're trying to reach on Instagram, and is that really something that you need to work on building? Sometimes I would actually encourage a business, depending on the situation that they're in, to focus more on growing their email list than focus on growing their social media presence. Because you're going to be able to draw a line between your email marketing efforts and the sales and the revenue you produce as a company. And it's much harder to do that on social media. That being said, I do love social media, and I do think that it is a great channel for gaining brand credibility and for growing your audience. Here's another little tip. There's a website, I think it used to be called Namecheck, and now it's called namechecker.com. And you can log on there and enter your social media handle or your login name that you'd like to use, and you can see what platforms it's available on and reserve your social media name there. I also recommend trying to get the same name across all platforms, which I know is hard because some platforms have started to get really robust. So you do have to start getting creative with your names. A great thing to always use is your own personal name as a fallback if it's not reserved. So that's something I always recommend people check out as well. Now, another question I get all the time is, how active do I need to be on these social media channels? The answer to that is, I encourage you to reserve your name at as many social media channels as you can. There are literally hundreds of social media channels, so it's kind of impossible to reserve it everywhere. But don't really tell people to follow you on those social media accounts until you are prepared to be an active presence on there. So an example of that is, don't go tell people to follow you on YouTube if you're not going to be on YouTube all the time. Now, I'm a dabbler, and I'll throw a video up on YouTube, or I'll go put something on Tumblr every now and then. But one thing that you can do on social media channels that you reserve but you're not actively engaged on is, in your profile, tell people where they can go find you or where they can go follow you. So if you're not going to be actively engaged on Twitter, but you are going to be actively engaged on Instagram, in your Twitter profile, just say, hey, I'm not on Twitter very much, but if you want to join the party, hop over to Instagram and follow me over there. And that's a friendly way to encourage your followers to find you where you are. Now, another thing to remember is it always comes back to the customer. So if your audience is engaged on Twitter and you're over on Instagram, you could be missing opportunities to engage with them. So please remember, no matter what, to always keep your customer at the forefront of your mind and go to where they are, and don't always ask them to come to where you are. The next thing I have people ask all the time is, how do I grow my follower account? And we have that answer. I've done a deep dive into that answer that will be available in the bonuses at the end of the course. I did a video recording that goes in depth into my Instagram building strategy, and that will be available for you guys in a couple of weeks. So I'll be excited to answer that question there, and if you have any more specific questions, you're always welcome to ask them in the Q&A in the link below this video. Now, the next question I get is, what is my